Howdy, folks. Um, it seems like extreme haunted houses, extreme haunts are kind of in the news. For some reason, they've been popping up in several of my feeds all around, and I finally looked into it for a minute to see why are they suddenly in the news now. They've been around for over 10 years, if not, no, over 10 years. Maybe about 2008, 2007 is when I first heard of them. I'm sure they existed before that. And I know they existed. They had to have. They were around. Um, why suddenly now? I mean, there was a little wave of them in about 2012 where they really went crazy. People wanted to know about them. I looked into them. And because this is me you're looking at, that's me. That's Daddy at a haunt going after somebody, actually. And you can see I was not hated. See, I got a kiss. See that? People loved me. But because of my costume, people had certain expectations that I was actually, more extreme, and they would ask me questions. I was not into leather, bondage, whipping, any of that. I carried a whip, carried a paddle, wore leather, but no, that was not a personal thing. It was a costume. But people didn't. A lot of people couldn't. Even actors at the haunt would ask me questions out of costume. I'm like, what? How the hell would I know? I don't do that. I only know enough of it to talk it as character. But anyways, people wondered what extreme haunts are, what you can't. So let's just answer a few questions of, why is it in the news? Well, apparently some guy is offering 20 grand if you can make it through his quotes experience. And I've looked at it. I've never met the guy. I never knew the guy. But looking at its history, I do remember a haunt down in San Diego that wanted to be an extreme haunt. And that it did get booted out of San Diego. Not because of because the neighborhood didn't like him having this thing in their neighborhood. Which, you don't put those in neighborhoods. You don't put any haunt in a neighborhood. That's weird. But, it's just neighbors aren't going to enjoy that. But I do remember that haunt was not welcome at Trans World. I don't think they could have stopped him, but he was never written up in magazines. Even now, if you look at a magazine called, I think it's Extreme Haunt, they don't even talk about this McCamey Manor or whatever it's called. I'm not even going to put it in my title. I'm not doing this for clicks on that. I know his name gets huge clicks. Apparently what he's doing, and I can tell, and I'll talk a little more about the waivers and all that stuff and how BS they are. Well, he's, for one, to get in the haunt, you pay with dog food. That's an old haunt trick to get you out. It's a tax evasion move. You see a church or a YMCA or something, and you can go into and I'm going to probably walk down to one at the park that I can give them a can of food to go in. It's a little kid's one. I'd like to see it and maybe shoot it for you guys. It's on Halloween. We'll see how that goes. I don't know what that's going to be like. It might be just not more shooting, but so I'm not promising anything. But you give a can of food to get in. The reason being is if you give money, it's now a business. They can't turn, like say it's $5 to get in. Well, you can't give that $5 to charity. You earned that $5, and it does get taxed unless you are a charity. And it's a whole thing if you just want to do a little haunt. So even though a can of food is not a good donation, if you want to give a food bank something, give money, not a can of food. A can of food is a worthless donation to a food bank. It's something. Actually, it's not worthless, but basically they have ins with Safeway and all the places where they will buy the slightly dented cans really cheap. If you pay $3 for a can, as opposed to give them $3, that $3 they could maybe get 10 cans of food. Whereas you gave them one can of food and you paid $3. That's what I mean by it's worthless. But they don't want to raise money. So raising money brings in the IRS, and you're no longer doing something for charity. You don't even have anything to give to charity after you. Now you've got to figure out the expenses of running the haunt, and just do it for food. You're a nonprofit. Boom, it's done. So that's why he's taking the dog food, so that he's not actually liable for a lot of tax things, is my guess. These are all mostly guesses. And my other guess is, if you just look, I mean, the haunt, basically he's getting actors to go act for him. They get tortured. They get tortured legally. Everything's legal. A lot of things that you think happen can't happen. They wouldn't be legal. But and then those films, he's on Netflix. I mean, those films are showing on Netflix. He's making money. He's got millions of views on YouTube. I mean, it's all for the movies. So people, that's why he doesn't charge an admission. He doesn't want to pay, so he just wants your likeness. And I would not be surprised if in that big contract that you have to sign, you're signing away all rights to your likeness, at least for his movies. It's his now. But that's fine. Now, a lot of things people ask on how you can interpret some of these contracts. And what is an extreme haunt? Well, an extreme haunt, a lot of times they'll advertise that they're allowed. One of the big things people freak out, they're allowed to touch you. They're allowed to grab you. They're allowed to separate you from your crowd. They're allowed to do certain things. Well, is it illegal to touch you? No, it's not. Sure, it's illegal to touch you inappropriately. It's certainly illegal to molest you. But a lot of times I'd be in line and customers would say, can they touch us? And I would be working the crowd, and I would walk up to a person who's very scared to go in and put a reassuring hand on on their shoulder and say, and like shaking it kind of and rubbing their shoulder, saying, do not worry. No matter what, under no circumstances will anyone ever touch you. And I would leave my hand on their shoulder the whole time, like kind of rubbing back, like nicely comforting them. And I'd go longer if I had to, until one of their friends or family members realized what was happening. I'm telling them no one will touch them while I'm touching them. And they would start laughing, and eventually that person would catch on and go, oh, I get it. I go, but don't worry, and they would realize I'm touching them. Yes. I mean, you go to a restaurant and the waitress will sometimes put their hand on your shoulder and ask you, well, do you have? Or that people touch you. You can be touched. And we don't touch you at most haunts for our safety, for one. But, I would tell them that you might get touched. You will not get intentionally grabbed, harmed, pushed. Nothing is going to intentionally happen to you. Will someone accidentally touch you? Maybe. Will someone have to tap you on the shoulder to warn you about something? Maybe. Those are maybes. But you're not going to, nothing bad. You're saying they would calm them down if they were at that level of scared. And mainly, we don't want to touch customers, because two things is, they always say, you don't touch us and we don't touch you. Well, basically, it's because we don't want you to touch us, because you don't just tap us on the shoulder. You like to punch us in the nose. And if I am going to go up to someone in a dark haunt and grab them on the shoulder, I'm going to startle them. I'm going to get hit in the face. So I don't touch. We don't touch you in the haunt. And if we do, we are doing it in a way we're prepared and we know what can happen. And I've done it. I've touched people and had them swing at me, but I knew it was going to come, so they didn't hit me, because they would miss. And usually it was someone who's out of control. And like, you'd kind of grab their shoulder and say, hey, man. And they'd, what? And they'd swing at you and go, look, if you don't knock this off, you're out of here. But yeah, we can touch you, we can grab you. There's no laws against it. I mean, we can't hurt you, we can't punch you. I mean, there's laws against that. So that's kind of a misconception, but it is kind of one we always like the illusion of, you know. So when they say in an extreme haunt, well, the customers are expecting to be grabbed, so they're not going to be throwing fists, you know. So they can tell you that. And at a normal haunt, you know, yeah, it can happen, but it's not going to happen. And then the other one is a lot of these haunts have you sign waivers. And oh, speaking of one of my favorite lines, I'd have people come up to me and say stuff like, you know, look, I know you can't touch me and I can't touch you. I go, wait. You've got that all wrong. What do you mean? You can touch me. And you usually get an eye roll and go, no, you really can. You can touch me anywhere you want. Now. And you promised me. Do it. Touch me. You know, and get them all freaked out. And they wouldn't ever. They were so scared of you when you did that stuff. But that was kind of fun. But one of my other, and then the other thing is the rights. A lot of these, I saw some of these things where they say you might die. We can, you know, they'll give you drugs. They'll make you do this. You know, we could do this. We can shake. They can't. You can't sign away negligence. You cannot sign rights away. If someone makes an unsafe attraction and you get hurt, you can sue. I mean, every time you go to the water park or any place that's like an amusement, a lot of times you have to sign a waiver that says, you know, I won't sue if anything happens to me. Well, yeah, but if it's their fault, you can sue. You know, you can't sign away basic rights. And they can't give you drugs. I mean, when I was at the haunt, you know, part of my job when I'd be walking the halls, I'd check on the actors, make sure they're doing good. That's why if you look at the kiss Daddy got, there's a little white outline around it and kind of a little white down here. That's makeup from a chin. It was one of the actresses. She saw Daddy and wanted to run up and just give him a big kiss on the cheek because she just had some freshly red lips put on. It was cute. And but you'd walk through and you'd talk to the actors, help them out. You know, do you need water? Are you hydrated? If they need water, I'd run and get them a bottle of water, whatever they needed. Except a lot of times, you know, you'd work in a room that was loud, banging noises. You'd be smashing into the wall, and you know, loud music, bright lights come on, and eventually, you know, these actors get headaches, and you'd walk into a room and they'd say, I just need an aspirin. Can you go get me an aspirin? So I have to say, no, that's a drug. I cannot give you aspirin. I could not go out to the medicine chest, grab an aspirin, and give it to someone. That was illegal. I could find a medic who could give them an aspirin because they were licensed to. I could cover their shift and they could run to the medicine box and grab an aspirin. But I could not hand a person an aspirin. And so when you hear they're allowed to drug, they're not allowed to drug you. Now, what can happen is they can tell you they drugged you. They can give you water. They can give you a placebo. And placebos work on so many people. I mean, I know that one multi-level marketing campaign is the whole thing is based on a placebo. But placebos work. And if you give someone some water, maybe flavor it slightly with something bitter, like tonic water. Put some tonic water in water, makes it so it's not sparkly, so it's just this bitter taste, and make someone drink it, have them drink it. And they're blindfolded. And after about an hour of being blindfolded, you might hallucinate. I one time, as an experiment in college, was blind for a day. Did it for a class. Me and a friend, before we went to bed one night, we blindfolded ourselves. So we woke up in the morning blind. And before we went to bed, we were allowed to take it off, but we had to spend a day blind. Well, within the first few hours of the day, I mean, you were so disoriented, and you were like seeing lights and things, and I mean, but it was pitch black. You were blinded. And if someone said they had given me an acid or something, I would have believed them. You know that. So yeah, when you're blindfolded and given something, you might think you're drugged. So they can't do that. There's a lot of things they can't to do. Uh, can they throw blood on? Sure, they can throw fake blood on you. As long as you've agreed to that. That's not gonna. I mean, they do that in the what is it? Evil Dead the musical. You could be in the splash zone and fake blood goes on. You just know ahead of time. You're not supposed to. And this isn't just mechanic. These are extreme haunts. There are extreme haunts. There are real ones that are worth visiting if you're interested in it. They don't make a fake offer of money if you can make it through. They charge you about $60 to go in. You do have to be of age, and you will get stuff like possibly drugged, and they'll tell you could be drugged. We will grab you and move you, and even separating people from other people. That happened. While people were in the haunt, you would block them, and you'd make the group, and you'd tell some people to just move on, move on. You got to go while you're holding back part of the group, saying you got to stay back. There's, whatever. And you're pretending you're, I forget what they call that. You're regulating the flow. You're just breaking up a group so that they're a little more scared. You can do that. You can make a person go through alone. We certainly dared plenty of people to go in alone as far as they could. Some made it all the way through. Some made it in, turned around, said they wanted to go in with their group. That was always interesting. And it was good for the crowd to watch the person go in, and then we'd wait. And if they didn't come back, the crowd would cheer. When they came back, the crowd would also cheer and laugh. Either way, had a good result, and a good result is entertaining people. So these extreme haunts that do exist, and forget about this guy that I know he was kind of whatever he does, he doesn't do a haunt. First, again, just to finish this off, supposedly you get some money if you do his whole thing. And the biggest catch I see in it is nowhere in it does he say what the whole thing is. So who's to say when you win? Him. Who wants to play a game when only your opponent knows the rules? I mean, it's stupid. Of course you'll never make it through. They say it can go anywhere from 4 to 8 or more hours. Well, if you go 8 hours, they'll just make it go 10 hours. You go 10 hours, let's go 15 hours. I mean, he's going to want to mess with you more than and keep his money more than you are going to, and you're going to quit something. I mean, he's going to ask you a question. He's going to do something where he says, okay, now I just need you to, tell me what happened in this year. Something. He goes, I don't know. That's gibberish. You don't know what you're talking about. You've lost your I don't think you are capable of making it. It's not safe. I'm not going to let you go. You failed. And he kicks you out. So that stuff, that's just a big BS. And the 20 grand is just publicity so he can sell more movies and t-shirts. Forget that stuff. Now let's talk, again with real extreme haunts. And here's some. There's a haunting.net, and they talk about extreme haunts and what can happen. Some twists they have, and they're, be grabbed, and there's some restraints, temperature, adult themes, basically, things come down to, can you get splattered with blood? Sure. I mean, if they warn you that you can get stained on your clothing, either don't wear that stuff or it could happen. You go see Evil Dead the musical, there's a whole splash scene area where fake blood can or will go on you. You go see Gallagher, watermelon juice can stain your sweater. I mean, you go to Marine World or whatever they're called, any of they always have a splash zone where the killer whale comes down and splashes. You can get covered in water, you can get covered in, fake blood. That's as long as you know that that can happen, and they tell you that can happen. Well, not much you can sue about that. And then, of course, the real extreme haunts. They're actually haunts. You go from room to room. The big deal is there's nudity. Well, that means a lot of the actors, a lot of the actors will be nude. Some of the actors will be nude. I know 17th Door to me, I'm not into this. They take extreme themes and make extreme haunts. I liked the fun themes. Even when I did like a serial killer room, I didn't blood splatter it. Just give you an idea that it was a serial killer. We did scare you. We never blood splattered. We never did gore. We never did guts. And those are all considered all ages. Gore and all that stuff. There's no rating system for that. The rating system is nudity because and that's 18 and over because that's what a strip club that serves no alcohol would be. Just to look at naked people, you got to be there. But there are ones that, I guess, the 17th Door, the theme was trafficking. Women were being trafficked. So you had you're going through a hotel or an apartment or something where women were sex slaves. That was the theme, and it was that's pretty horrific. I don't know if I would be into it. I know one showed, what these people call extreme haunts, they exist. They're out there, and they cost a lot of money to go to. Because they don't get sponsorships. A lot of haunts. Let me show you something real quick. Slaughterhouse. We'll look at the Slaughterhouse. It's actually Reno Fright Fest, and if you look at the front, bottom of it, this is just a regular local haunt. First of all, you're not going to get away with doing that stuff in the greater Nevada field, and look at all these sponsors. That keeps the price to the customers down and helps the haunt make more money. If you don't have sponsors, you have to charge more money. And Wiener Schnitzel and Jersey Mike's, they ain't going to sponsor a nudity-filled haunt. It's just not in their best interest. So you pay, and you pay $60, $80, $100 to go through some of these extremes. But that's really all they are. Yeah, they'll grab you. Yeah, stuff can happen. Nothing bad can happen because you can't sign away certain rights, So basically, that's what an extreme is. They're around. McKay is not one. He's not welcome in the haunt community from what I know. And the extremes kind of are. They're just kind of okay, you weirdos. So that's it. That's what an extreme is. They're not that weird. They're just kind of for people who are that weird. All right. Thanks, folks.